Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you are well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more relationship stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting a like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. Let's crack on with today's first story. Much love guys. Now today's first story comes from You Are the Father 26, who says, my 25 female husband, 27 male, wants a paternity test on our son. My husband and I have been together 6 years, married for 3. Our relationship has always had a bit of trust issues from both sides. I figured no one is perfect and it never seemed like a big of a problem. But obviously now with this situation, I feel like I missed a huge red flag. And by the way, this is relevant. I am white and my husband is black. We had our first child 2 years ago. Things were great. My husband is a wonderful father and very involved and supportive. Our daughter looks like a perfect mix of the two of us. Our daughter was a planned pregnancy, but our son less so. Although we were pretty careless with condoms around the time I conceived. My husband was just as great during the pregnancy and he did a lot with our daughter to give me breaks when I was sick. He took the week of my due date off and pampered me the whole time. Literally the minute he saw our son, that all changed. He actually walked out of the delivery room. I wasn't really focused on him at that moment, but it was tearing me up until I saw him again. Which was when he brought our daughter to visit. He basically ignored me and our son the whole time. I knew something was wrong, but I really couldn't figure it out. I thought maybe he had been hit with a crazy new father-son feelings and was wrestling with them, so I left him alone for a while. Finally last night I asked him what was going on, and he said he'd email me because he was too angry to talk about it. This morning, I received his email and it was basically him saying our son is a white baby and he is clearly not the father. He told me he won't be involved in me or our son's lives until he gets a paternity test proving he is the father. This really blew me away. I haven't told anyone I know yet because it's so new. I'm kinda hoping he's being a crazy dad and will laugh about this soon, so I don't want to tell anyone and taint their image of him. At the same time, I'm pissed because he's saying he thinks I cheated and he can't even talk to me about it. And right now, I think he's really stupid. Our son is much lighter than our daughter, but he still looks like his dad. I am not doing the test, but I don't know how to reply to his email other than with a big fuck you. I feel like if I say no, he will just divorce me, and I don't want this to tear up an otherwise happy family. And we're going to start off with Dinosaur Train, who says in quotes, an otherwise happy family, then goes on to say, is it though? People tend to normalize things that aren't right for the sake of a relationship. Clearly he's got some issues, mistrust, communication problems, and some more shit. I can't believe that a character like that would be conducting a model relationship. In quotes again, I'm not doing the test. And says as you wish, but you'll be doing the test during the divorce/custody battle. I'm not taking a position on if that's right or wrong, that's just reality. You'll get one sooner or later. You must be unbelievably hurt. I'm sorry about that. If I were you, I'd ask him to move out and get a DNA test. While he was out, I'd take time to see a professional and truly evaluate the relationship as a whole. The Father 27 says, I'm 31 female and if it were me, I would get the paternity test on the condition that when it proved I was telling the truth, we would start couples and individual counseling to deal with our little trust issues. Or if I was ready to end the marriage over this anyway, I would get the paternity test and file for divorce at the same time. The one thing I would not do is not get the paternity test. But I get really petty when I know I can prove I'm right to someone who is lashing out at me because of their issues with trust. I'm not going to have children, but if I did, I might get a test before I left the hospital to ensure the kid was mine and my husband's because babies have been switched before, and I'm a wee bit paranoid. As she says, I think you should just go ahead and do the test. What do you have to hide? If you didn't cheat on him, then why not just get the test to prove him wrong? Genetics are tricky. Since your baby is a multiracial baby, sometimes genetic will tip over and resembles one side more than the other. And Drunzai says get the test. For one thing, it's not up to you if the boy is tested or not. Legally, your husband is his father and has every right to know if that status is correct. Then there's the fact that he personally can test him anytime anyway. Paternity tests can be purchased online or any drugstore and sent off to a lab for cheap. If you divorce over this, there will definitely be a paternity test before he agrees to any child support for the boy. Get the test done and get past this, unless of course there's a reason you don't want him to see the results of a paternity test. And one more from Here's to Shutting Up, who says Reddit is ridiculous sometimes. A while back there was a post where a woman's boyfriend left her after she accused him of cheating based on photographic evidence and testimony from her friend who had faked everything. The consensus here was that he was right to bail, as she deserved to be dumped because she didn't trust him. So why is the mistrust in this case totally justified somehow? Apparently if your SO thinks you cheated because someone went out of their way to prove as much, it is your fault if they leave. But accusing your spouse of cheating because you don't understand how genetics works is no big deal. And I just think it all comes down to what OP's endgame and what she wants out of this in the end. Like that last comment said, I'd be absolutely cut up to bits because I always look at it from a trust point of view. Like a lot of these stories always come from trust, and it's like this person just accused you of basically cheating with someone else. I think in my head I'd always be thinking, are they thinking that way about me now? Are they still not trusting me? Do they still think that, I'm going behind their back and cheating on them? And a relationship will just never work that way, will it? And then there was one of the comments talking about being petty and just getting the test for the sake of proving your point. And I would kind of feel, I think myself, that way as well. And then I agree with a lot of comments on the therapy and stuff like that, because otherwise you've got nothing to build on. You just got these mistrust issues all the time and you're just going to keep going nowhere with them, I think, unless you talk to someone about it. But let's move on to the update to find out what happened next. So the update says, sorry if this post leaves out important details. I see I did last time. I'm just busy, but last time many of you helped, so here goes. Just to clarify, since many people seem to focus on this, neither of us has cheated. By trust issues, I meant unwarranted jealousy, I guess. For example, we used to have a rule about not hanging out with opposite sex friends alone, but that was when I was 19. The rule has basically ended as long as my husband knows about it. Now it's mostly him getting nervous if I take too long to answer texts or something. Well, I answered the email with a simple, the child's name is your son. We will talk about it when you get home. My husband came home that night completely different than he had been in the 2 weeks our son has been home. He actually picked him up and talked to him, which was the first time he had done so. I was doing a little art project with our daughter, and then it was dinner time, so we didn't have a chance to talk until she was in bed. Based on the advice here, I'd been prepared to discuss why he immediately went to cheating and then consent to the test. Then he told me he had already done the test the first day our son was home. But when the results came back for him being the father, he was still paranoid about me cheating now that the birth had planted the seed. So he sent me the email basically hoping I would confess. When I didn't, he decided it was finally okay to trust me, and that's why he was much more pleasant. I told him I want couples therapy, and he said no, which is what he always says when I have asked in the past. And I wanted to say I would leave him if he didn't, because the reality is I really can't raise a toddler and an infant by myself, and I don't want to have split custody. Our holidays were pretty much ruined. I can barely look at him, but luckily it was son's first time out, so I had an excuse to be busy. This morning before our daughter was awake, he actually did apologize and said he could see how much everything was hurting me. If I wanted therapy, he would do it. I said okay, though I feel like at the same time, that was 2 days ago. I don't mean to hold a grudge, but I feel like I just don't love him anymore. Always wanting me to tell him where I was going and who with was one thing, but accusing me of cheating and denying our son is a whole different thing. He's been a great dad since the convo, but it's like 2 weeks too late. Not the update I was hoping to give. I wanted him to come home with flowers and apologies and say he didn't need the test, but would go to therapy and see how it goes. And there was a lot of comments on this, some saying that he was projecting and he's probably cheating, others saying that, the relationship's completely over, the trust is gone, so there's nothing to build on anymore. Others wishing OP that he does get therapy and things go better in the future. But what do you guys make of this situation? What would you do if you was in it? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let's move on to another story. And our next story, I want to give you some warnings straight away before we get into them. It's a pretty heavy story. There is mentions of incest, sexual assault, a car accident as well. And I know I'm giving away parts of the story, but I feel like I have to mention it up front. Otherwise, I wouldn't feel right not mentioning it. But the boyfriend talks about having a relationship with his mother. And in the story, it mentions that it's fabricated. But I still wanted to put those warnings on there because there is still mentions of it. Hopefully that makes some sense. So if you do want to skip the story, please feel free to do so. Timestamps are in the description. But the story is from Strawberry Pop 22, who says, "Today I found out my 19 male boyfriend has been cheating on me, 18 female, with his mother for our entire relationship. My boyfriend and I have been together for almost a year now. We met at my mall food court job and immediately hit it off. After a month of knowing each other, he asked me to be his girlfriend. Of course, I said yes. Our relationship has been pretty great up to this point. He takes me on dates, compliments me, and just makes me feel super special. The only weird thing is he would never let me meet his mom. His parents are divorced and have been for almost his entire life. The divorce was messy and his father ended up getting full custody. He had the typical every other weekend and 6 weeks out of the summer setup. I've met his dad and his paternal family, but he would be weird when I brought his mum up. He would tell me things like, 'We have a complicated relationship,' or 'I'll tell you about it later on.' About 3 months into the relationship, I began to realize he would never answer his mother's calls or texts around me. He would hastily clear it out or step into another room to talk to her, even if it was just texting. I tried to not let it bother me because I wanted to respect his boundaries. Last week, he spent the night with me for the first time. I woke up at around 3 a.m. because of a bad dream and I couldn't go back to sleep. I rolled over to grab my phone in the dark but accidentally picked up his instead. I looked at the messages from his mother. I opened his phone and began to read through them and noticed they were mostly very sexual. There would be nudes exchanged, hardcore sexting, and messages for them to meet up for sex. I read the conversations in disbelief. I tried to pretend like it wasn't real and I dreamed it. A few days later, I confronted him about it. It didn't take long before he broke down and told me everything. He'd been having sex with his mother since he was 13 years old. They usually have intercourse once a week, sometimes more. They've been doing this throughout our entire relationship. He never told her that he had a girlfriend because he wanted them to still have their weekly sessions. At this point, I didn't know what to do. I love him with all my heart, but I'm so disgusted with him and his mother. I haven't talked to him since he told me everything. After he told me, I ran out and drove to a town 2 hours away. I blocked him on every social media and his phone number. I changed the locks to my house. I've also called the weekend to work so he can't find me. What should I do? Make it work out or break up with him? Update. Thank you everyone for your advice and kind words. I've decided that I'm going to talk to his dad and him both. I'll talk to his father first and him. That way his father can help me figure out what course of action we may need to take. I messaged both of them an hour ago. His father agreed to meet this afternoon. I unblocked boyfriend and I'm waiting on a reply from him. I'll update later after I talk to them both and decide what we should do. Next update. I have no idea where to start with the events that occurred within the past 11 hours since I last posted. I'm still shaken up and this is hard to process. My boyfriend finally messaged me back a few hours after I asked to meet up with me. He agreed to meet at his apartment. I made sure that I was going to talk to his dad before him so he could help me find the correct course of action for my boyfriend. Well, I met with the father. We will call him X. I was so scared before talking to X that I was shaking. My voice was unsteady and I had tears in my eyes when I walked in. I had no idea where to begin. X looked concerned, so he sat us down across from each other. I told X that I believe his son has been sexually abused for 6 years now. Of course, X was taken aback. I started to tell him about what my boyfriend told me. That's when X started to be more and more puzzled. He stopped me while telling the story I knew about my boyfriend and his mother. X told me that there's no way this is completely true. When he says this, I start getting confused as well. X tells me that my boyfriend's mother died in a car accident when he was 8. X never remarried or had a girlfriend. At this point, I'm dumbfounded and I have no idea what to say. X tells me that he didn't think my boyfriend's mother was sexually abusive while she was alive or why my boyfriend would even tell me this. X also tells me he has no idea who mum might be on his phone. I take a few minutes to calm down and think before I head over to my boyfriend's apartment. The drive was only 10-ish minutes from my ex's house to my boyfriend's. I took this time to process what X told me and what I would say to my boyfriend. When I got to the apartment, I promptly went inside. I demanded answers immediately. I asked the truth about his mother, the messages I saw, and if they've really been having sex since he was 13. Of course, he apologized again and gave the same story, but it made me angry. This is where I lost my cool. I yelled and told him that X told me that his biological mother had been dead for almost 11 years. I told him I knew there was no way the story he told me was true because his mother passed when he was 8 years old. My boyfriend became silent and looked down. At this point, I was crying uncontrollably. I felt so bad for what happened and I wanted to get him therapy. I was willing to forgive him for keeping the secret from me. My boyfriend was silent for a few minutes, then finally spoke to me. He told me he made the whole story up. The contact he had as mum was an ex-girlfriend he regularly hooked up with. She was 20 and a bartender in our city. He put her name as mum so I wouldn't get suspicious that he was talking to another woman so often. He didn't think I would find out, so he fabricated the whole story up. This way, I wouldn't be mad at him. He told me he figured I would feel sorry for him and stay with him. I felt so betrayed when he confessed this. In the past few days, I went from having a healthy relationship to thinking my boyfriend had been sexually abused by his mother, then to find out it was all a lie because he didn't want me to know he was sleeping with this ex. He tried to justify it further, telling me it was meaningless and he only loved me. I told my boyfriend that I want nothing to do with him and left. He tried to follow and plead with me, but I ignored him. I drove home, threw out everything he had gave me, and blocked him once again. I cannot believe he lied about something so major just to protect himself. I haven't stopped crying since I left his apartment. I'm so hurt and now I don't know what to do. I no longer want him in my life. I'm considering moving town so he can't find me. He's gone online and used a fake number to try and get a hold of me to apologize. I need to clear my head and try to take everything in. I will turn off my phone and computer for a while so he can't try to contact me again. Update on that post says, so my ex-boyfriend came to my apartment and started banging on the door, begging to be let in so we could talk. At this point, I've turned all the lights off. I'm being quiet so he will hopefully leave. I know he can see my car out front, so it's obvious that I am here still. I want to call the cops, but I'm not sure there's much they can do. I'm thinking about going back to live with my parents until this blows over with him. I'm also considering talking to his ex that he was hooking up with. I got her full name and where she works. I will keep updates as I learn more about my ex-boyfriend. Update 2. I have a lot of people send messages, so thank you for the kind words. I can't reply to everyone's messages, so at the bottom of the comments, I've added some additional commentary on everyone's suspicions. Please read it to answer any questions if you're still unsure. Please note, there are some personal details I left out in order to keep privacy. X, how his mother died. There's a reason he didn't talk about it. And OP's comments said, so I've been noticing a lot of similar comments, so many that I can't reply individually to each of them. I'll just clarify some common questions I keep seeing. The account was made to get this off my chest and be a throwaway, so here it goes. 1. The nudes. Yes, it seems out there that I couldn't tell. Here is why it was difficult. Because they were all close up of the genitals. Looking back, if I would have paid more attention, yes, I could have known, but I wasn't thinking about that at the time. I was scared. 2. The phone. It was dark and I picked one off the nightstand and opened it. No, we didn't have a passcode. Yes, I did realize it was his, but kept reading. I was just alarmed from the few messages I read on his lock screen, so I decided to keep reading. 3. Dead mother. I asked about his mother many times, but no one ever gave me a fraught answer. They were always vague, like they didn't want to talk about her. We had only been dating for a few months, and I don't feel like I should press about something someone doesn't want to discuss. 4. The ex. I cannot post much at this point on here because I decided to take legal action. I got into contact with his ex and I can say this isn't the first time he's done something sociopathic like this. He's made some illegal moves and her and I decided to take this a step further. 5. My job. No, I no longer work at the food court. I have a better paying job at the moment. I do have an apartment that my parents helped pay for and they gave me a car to drive until I can support myself. My parents are super supportive and caring. They always have been. They're the only reason I'm able to have what I have. Edit. I ended up talking to the ex. We had a long conversation and I learned some other information. She told me she had no idea what I was talking about when I said what he told me. She claims she hasn't talked to him in months because of a restraining order she has against him. He harassed her when she broke up with him back in 2017. She almost had a child with him but decided to abort it when they broke up. I cannot disclose why they broke it off. I'm considering a restraining order as well, since the ex says she's not who he was cheating on me with. I have no idea who it is. I could care less at this point. I can't tell much else since I want legal action. I've told what I can to the best of my ability. I'm actually just speechless after this story. I'm so curious to what else was going on with the restraining order. It's just so messed up. But what do you guys make of this one? Crazy level story. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And just a huge thank you for spending your time with me today, getting involved in the stories your love, support and time as always means the absolute world to me. And hopefully I will see you in the next one. Take care and much love.
Wake up, get up, stretch my legs, eat some breakfast, milk and eggs, brush my teeth up, wash my face, throw my clothes on, start my day. Wake up, I can smell the smoke from the bacon. Let's go, see the sun shining from the windows. Okay, I know that today